You know, when this topic came up, it was actually pretty straightforward. Of course, the overall question for all of you guys, especially brought up in recent light of Scump's latest tweet, that being DaLLLas, the triple L, of course. Huntsmen have now taken down the Dallas Empire 3 times straight in those 3 series. I would say fairly one-sided every single time. Now, him and Clayster did go back in this thread. Ultimately, I thought it was a great exchange between these 2 pro players in a scene which we know is filled with drama and it's filled with heated moments, especially when it comes to the community, the crowd, the Redditors, the responders out there who are hated on Dallas Empire and maybe not so much the Huntsmen, but it's actually Scump and also Clayster kind of agreeing that it wasn't necessarily the entire Empire roster who brought this hate upon themselves. And let's keep in mind as well, before we get into it, the Dallas Empire are still a top team in the league, and I do understand if the roles were swapped here, if it was the Dallas Empire taking down the Huntsmen 3 times now and taking the first CDL championship, and it was the Huntsmen who had kind of brought it upon themselves preseason, I don't think the hate would be that bad compared to what it is now for the Empire, what it would be for the Huntsmen if the roles were swapped. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, did the Dallas Empire bring this onto themselves, the fact they talked themselves up so much preseason and now they're not living up to the hype, and that's why there is so much hate against them. I'm a bit back and forth about this, but I do think 2 figures in particular kind of brought it about, and especially one that's going to be Hastr0 and especially Crimsix did kind of bring the hate. You guys can leave your thoughts down below. I have my, pretty finite examples, and I'm certainly missing some examples as well. I look back to Crimsix, who played the villain card, just about to perfection, which I really do enjoy, and I'm not hating on the team, but you kind of got to understand from one point of view, they did kind of bring this onto themselves. And when it comes time for Hastr0 as well, obviously a very passionate guy. His whole instance with Mike from Hastr0, that was a weird one, right? They had their random CDL preseason rankings, which obviously put Dallas Empire behind the Huntsmen. Hastr0 was very upset by this. He then went on to accuse Hex of still being an owner inside Hastr0, and that's why they had these preseason rankings the way they were. It was a bit blown out of proportion. I don't think it was that bad from either side here, and obviously those rankings are fairly, I would say, accurate compared to their top 3 teams, or at least a little bit accurate, placing Huntsmen in front of Empire. It certainly was, though, in my opinion, and again, I really do enjoy all of this stuff. I don't hate any team out there. I think it was Crimsix who played the villain card to T before all of this, right? We have his own personal video about this. We never forgive, never forget. That went viral. It's been memed by Scump. It was actually first led off with a CDL interview where he trash talked the entire former Optic roster, not just the young guys. Also brought in Scump and of course brought in Formal a little bit there as well, but mainly targeting Scump and all of his former teammates in that interview. Then you have the video which eventually was memed by Scump at the end of NRG's video, never forgive, never forget. And then you also have Crimsix continuing with the poster comments, right? He wakes up every single morning to the poster of the IW boys and winning the title, and he hates it. It drives him, and it's such a bold comment to make right before launch weekend, and all of a sudden launch weekend comes around and you go 0-2, and then you play second at the first CDL championship to the Huntsmen. It almost seems like these storylines were almost written perfectly for Empire to have the chance to prove themselves, and they just have fallen short a couple of times, albeit they are still a top team in the league, but certainly they did not help themselves preseason in bringing the hate to themselves, right? I think any team out there who talks a lot of smack is going to get a lot of smack when it comes time for Call of Duty. No matter who you are, it just so happens that when you have an owner like Hastr0 say things, and when you have Crimsix say a lot of things, the hate's going to be all the more extreme. And even Clayster had his say, back and forth on Reddit a few times about, of course, the whole online performance. And to give credit where it's due, Dallas did look very good online, right? And they're still a top 3 team, and I think by almost everyone's standards out there, a guaranteed top 5 team throughout the entire season. They're not doing poorly. They're not just living up to the expectations that they set for themselves. So overall, when I answer the question, who brought the most hate to Empire, or who brought this upon themselves, I'll say Crimsix, and I think he would probably admit to that as well. I will say this and close out as well. I feel very bad for the youngsters of the lineup, right? You have your experience. Crim and Clay, they can handle this. They can go back, they can play at the top of their game, and they can still perform. I feel very bad for the other young guns, Illy, Hook, and especially Shotzi, who are obviously super nervous as is, and then they have all this pressure from fans that weren't even supposed to be hating on them, right? These fans are hating on Crimsix, but because Crimsix and Clayster and Hastr0 are tied to Empire, all these fans are now hating on the young guns as well, who already have to deal with their first Call of Duty League, and a lot of them, their first big stage experience, and so that's certainly got to affect them as well. I mean, we've seen it with the Shotzi interview. The kid was so nervous. I feel bad mostly for them, and Hastr0 obviously steps up to defend them as well. But again, when it comes down to the question, did Empire kind of beg this to fruition? Yes. Do I think they deserve all the hate they're getting? No, it's pretty obvious, but it makes for a great storyline. The Huntsman and Empire will continue to go back and forth all season long. We'll see who ends the season on top. And then you got Atlanta FaZe, who wasn't even there, and they're still thinking, guys, we're the best team, and it's not even close. Until next time, what do you guys think about this? As always, my DMs are always open. If you guys want me to talk about stories like this, feel free to reach out whenever you guys want. Until next time, take care, drink your coffee. Goodbye.